Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Off-Farm Income Podcast, to our YouTube channel. Great to have you here with us. Today, I get to interview another National Star finalist. It's a great time of year for interviews for me. I'm going to be speaking with Blake Quiggins. He is coming to us from Hart County in Kentucky. What an amazing story of agricultural entrepreneurship. He is 21 years old. He's already purchased his own farm, and he's got two businesses that are just going gangbusters in terms of fitting and showing cattle as well as goats and selling show supplies. Really an amazing story of him being a freshman in high school and recognizing the need for a service in his area, and it has led him all the way to the point where he's now farming on his own, running two businesses, and he has a chance at winning the National Star Award in Agribusiness this year, 2019. Fantastic story. Can't wait for you to hear it and get to know Blake, and we'll have that coming up for you right away. Joining me today is Blake Quiggins, and he is coming to us from, well, are you in Munfordville, Kentucky right now, Blake?
I am. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
So he's coming to us from Munfordville, Kentucky, and he is soon to be on stage at the National FFA Convention as one of 4 finalists for the National Star Award in Agribusiness. And he's also a former chapter president from his FFA chapter at Hart County High School. So Blake, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm glad to join in today.
Well, great. I am excited to speak with you. You've got some really interesting businesses going on, and that's what we're all about here on the Off-Farm Income Podcast, so I'm really looking forward to being able to profile those. What do you say we just jump in?
Sounds great.
Okay. Well, what I like to do is I usually like to start off by just kind of asking you about you so our audience can kind of get to know who they're listening to. How old are you now, Blake?
Right now I'm 21 years old.
Okay. And when you're at home, are you on a farm, or are you in town, or are you something kind of in the middle of those two things?
I am on my own farm here in Hart County, Kentucky. Live on 85 acres here. Run registered cattle and run Champion Show Supply as well as Premier Livestock Services. Very
cool. Now, when you say you're on your own farm, are we talking Blake Quiggins' own farm? You've already been able to go out and get your own?
Yes, sir. I have.
That is great, man. I cannot wait.
I own 85 acres here in Hart County.
Awesome. I cannot wait to get deeper into this. Really, really impressive. So, since you've graduated high school a few years ago, is that what you've been concentrating on, farming and growing your businesses?
Absolutely, yes, sir. I graduated in 2016 from Hart County there, and my freshman year, actually it started way before my freshman year. Growing up, exhibiting livestock all across the country, I always was eager to learn the fitting and clipping techniques since I was 7-8 years old. I would always, if my parents couldn't find me, I would always be at a shoot with some of our good friends learning how to fit and clip. So it all kind of started then and has grown tremendously. Whenever I got into high school, my freshman year, I saw a need for clipping and fitting service to provide to the youth here in our local county.
Okay.
And that has extended all the way across the United States now.
Wow, very cool. Now, when we're talking fitting and clipping, are we talking cattle? Is that the species that you specialize in?
Cattle mainly. I also raise club goats, wethers, and sell them. And so it's mainly cattle and goats.
Very cool. Wow, what a great deal. So you saw the need for this way back when you were first starting high school.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I started Premier Livestock Services my freshman year, and it started local with me doing local clinics here at the county. And since then, I have been able to do clinics nationwide or within the United States, and recently become a stock show U professor for Sullivan Supply.
Okay.
So we do clinics at all of the junior livestock heifer shows as well as many different shows throughout the United States.
Very cool. Wow, that is quite a story. So, I mean, as a freshman, were you kind of a natural-born entrepreneur, or did you develop into an entrepreneur because you saw this need and wanted to fill it?
I guess I've always been the one that always wants to help the next generation, especially since those guys gave back and gave me the opportunity to learn.
Okay.
And pick up the trade that I can consider my lifestyle now, the way I make my living. So I guess that kind of turned me into an entrepreneur whenever I saw that, well, that generation has taught me, so I want to make sure I can give back to the next generation.
Okay.
And that's been my biggest driving force, is to give back to that next generation that's to come.
Well, my goodness, when you were a freshman in high school, you were the next generation.
I know, yes, sir. But there's always that 7-8-year-old that is always looking up to that next one.
Wow, that is fantastic. Well, now, so you must have had some great FFA advisors that helped you with this along the way. I mean, certainly when you're getting started out, you were still very young.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I had two great advisors, Sean Murray and Ashley Thomas. Sean Murray is an excellent guy and person when it comes to the greenhouse and landscaping and plant side of things. And Ashley Thomas is actually my older sister. She is 9 years older than me. I owe a lot of my success and everything growing up to her. If it wasn't for her showing me the ropes whenever I was young, then there's no way I would be where I'm at today. She is definitely more the animal science and FFA side of things when it comes to contests and that type of stuff. She's always been there pushing me. And I feel like being her younger brother, she's always pushed me. She can push me a little bit harder because she knows that I can handle it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Well, she must be very proud of you. And I've got to tell you that I've had a number of people on the show whose parents have been their FFA advisors, but I believe this is the first time that I've ever interviewed anybody whose sibling was their FFA advisor. So how was that for you, having your sister be your teacher and your FFA advisor?
I'm not gonna lie. Whenever the first day that I walked into class with her, it was a little awkward. It was just with that teaching role versus just being able to talk to her, if that makes sense. You know, I mean, it was just. But I will say that it made my FFA experience a lot neater, just from the standpoint of having that person always there to relate to, and that you could talk to about anything and whatever. And it's also funny, my whole family's kind of involved. My dad taught ag for 27 years.
Okay.
So I've kind of been brought up in the FFA my entire life.
Very cool. Well, wow, what a story so far. I'm going to take a quick moment, Blake, and acknowledge one of our sponsors, if that's all right with you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, I'm assuming if you're running cattle, you've probably got squeeze chutes and everything you need to help handle those large livestock on your farm.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Well, very cool. Our sponsor is Powder River Livestock Handling Equipment, and they manufacture great livestock handling equipment, squeeze chutes, calf tables, runways, sweep tubs. I mean, whatever you need to handle your large livestock efficiently, safely, and with a minimization of stress, they have got it for you. I use Powder River on my farm here in Idaho for our cattle. I've toured their factory in Utah, and they are second to none. They developed this equipment with the rancher in mind, the cattle raiser in mind, and with people out here in the West in mind who are bringing cattle in off of the range that once or twice a year, and they have made fantastic livestock handling equipment. So everybody, please go over to powderriver.com, check out what they've got to offer, and make sure that your local farm and ranch retailer are carrying their equipment as well. Everybody, powderriver.com. All right, Blake, thank you for letting me do that.
Yes, sir. Not a problem.
All right. Well, you have got just a fascinating story. So obviously, your SAE was going to be built into the businesses that you were running, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you started Premier Livestock Services your freshman year. Your other business is Champion Show Supply. When did that get going?
That got going my senior year in high school. I met a guy named Ken Duncan out of Illinois. I was actually up there doing a clinic. Whenever I met him, he was a Sullivan supply dealer there in Illinois, and kind of got to talking to him, networking with him, and I actually got to become kind of his little satellite version down here in Kentucky of Champion Show Supply. Since then, I have now purchased Champion Show Supply 100%, and I am one of the largest and youngest Sullivan supply dealers within the United States right now.
Wow, that is incredible.
So, yes, sir. Right now I'm covering 5 states, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, South Carolina, and North Carolina.
Wow. Now, does this involve you going out on the road and meeting with people, or do you get to do all this over the phone and online?
Actually, we, when I say we, me, of course, my parents play a big role, too, in this. They're always there to pitch in because I do have shows multiple weekends that I, and of course, can't be at the same time. But I actually have two traveling trailers that are set up that I in bulk and take to shows so that my customers can purchase that product right there at the show. From clippers to the paints, the glue, anything that you use to get the livestock ready at the shows.
Well, Blake, I mean, this is a pretty amazing story, and here you are at age 21. You've already purchased your own farm, or actually, I don't know how you acquired your own farm. Tell us that story. How did you come to have your own 86-acre farm already at age of 21?
It's not easy, that's for sure. Ever since I got out of high school, I went straight into the workforce, growing my 2 businesses. I didn't go to college. I felt like with the businesses and everything that I had obtained and working towards, that's what I solely wanted to do my entire rest of my life, to make my living.
Okay.
So I thought there was no sense in delaying that another 4 years. Just go ahead and jump in. And I have been very, very fortunate with Champion Show Supply as well as Premier Livestock Services there to help me to get to where I am today. And I hope to keep expanding Champion Show Supply, my territory, as much as Sullivan's will allow me to do so.
Wow, really amazing. Now, obviously, since graduation, you have kept involved with the FFA, and that's led you to being a National Star Finalist. So, so often when I interview students, they're doing that because they're continuing on with their education. But in your case, you had your own business, so you were concentrating on that. So what kept you involved with the FFA after high school?
I guess the biggest driving force to keep me involved was I attended my first FFA state convention when I was a year and a half old. Okay. It's kind of always just been kind of in my blood, I guess you could say. I don't really know anything else outside of agriculture and FFA. I mean, that's kind of been what I've been brought up in. I always wanted to get my American degree and everything. And then whenever I was fortunate enough to become star in agribusiness there here in Kentucky, then purchasing Champion Show Supply, I decided to wait and hold out to my last year to get my American degree.
Wow, good for you. That is fantastic. And so tell me about your cattle operation. You said you're running registered cattle. What breed and how does that operation work?
Yes, sir. Right now I have, I'm kind of a multi-breed operation, I guess you could say. Got a couple Hereford donors, mainly key influence, key Angus cattle.
Mm-hmm.
I focus mainly on the show cattle side of things. Do a majority of my work is involved with embryo transfer work, flushing, getting into that IVF and vitro with transova genetics, a little bit here and there, but mainly just key influence cattle. Right now I'm running about 35 head of registered cattle and then about 75 head of commercial cows.
Wow, really amazing. And so the commercial cattle, is that a cow-calf operation?
The commercial cattle are just my recipients for my
Okay.
embryos out of my registered cows.
Got it. So you're flushing those embryos and then you're implanting them into your recipients, and then you're selling off that purebred stock out of those recipient cows. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Very
sir.
cool. Okay. How?
It's just a faster way to reproduce those elite genetics that I have here.
Right. How many number ones and number two embryos are you getting when you flush?
Right now, I'm averaging about 5 to 7 number ones, and then about 3 to 5 number twos.
Very good. Wow.
And that's on them older. Yeah, that's on them older cows.
That's on the older cows. Wow. Good for you. Super impressive, Blake. It just blows me away that you're doing all this already. But, we talk about entrepreneurship as a way to support your farming endeavors on this show all the time. I think you're a golden example of how this can really work.
Well, thank you, sir.
You bet. Now, let me ask you this while I've got you. If you were to compare what you're trying to do on your farm, because obviously you're doing, when it comes to, and for folks who've never done it, when it comes to flushing donor cows for the embryos, then implanting, that's very management intensive, because you've got to bring all these recipients into line. You got to bring all your donors into line with their heat cycles, and everybody's got to be synchronized and all of this timing. And so, a lot of it can be out of your control when you need to be there and when you need to be on the farm. If you had to go into town for a 40-hour-a-week job, but you were trying to do what you're doing with your cattle, how much more difficult would it be than, say, being self-employed?
It would be, I would say it would virtually be impossible, because you're pretty much going to have to cram everything into a 2-day or a day-and-a-half window there on Saturdays, and then Sundays after church, of course. But whenever we bring, whenever our flush days happen, and then we transfer those embryos and everything, it's not just a one-day thing. Those cattle come in the chute, get a cedar inserted in them, get shot, and then all of those cattle come through the chute at least twice.
Yeah.
Before that they ever even are implanted with the embryo. So it's about a 2-week programming schedule to get everything set up, and with having a full-time job, I feel like it's virtually impossible for me to get everything done now, just the way it is with me traveling with Champion Show Supply and running my cattle operation. And you put a 40-hour work week on top of that with in town, it would be virtually impossible, just because then whenever you, after those cattle are coming into heat, you have to be there and make sure that they're coming into heat on the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're out there every hour checking heats on cows. And then when it comes to the calving, your calving cows, they're not going to wait around your work schedule. They're going to go, and you need to make sure that you're there, because that's your next profit margin right there, is that calf that's being born. So.
And what I'm always saying here in the show is that entrepreneurship allows you to control your schedule so you can be on your farm when your farm demands it. Are you finding that to be true?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. 100%. I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to be able to work for myself and run my business. Growing up, everybody always said that that it's a lot easier to work for yourself. And now that I'm finally to that point where I am, it's truly amazing and humbling to know that you can work for yourself and make it and be happy. That's the biggest thing that I think is hard, and especially now with just the cost of living and everything. The farmer is not making that, and the government's not making it any easier for them either, for us either.
Yeah. Wow. Really cool. What's it going to mean to you to be up on that stage in Indianapolis?
It's going to be quite amazing, to be honest. To be one of the very few to come from Kentucky to be a star finalist is very humbling in itself. And then whenever you put thousands of people out there in the blue corduroy that fills that stadium, it's gonna be pretty awesome and very humbling at the same time to know that you were one of four, that I was one of four.
Yeah, not to make you nervous, but not just thousands of people, tens of thousands of people out there.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Well, what's it going to mean to Hart County High School, to your sister, your other FFA advisor, and the state of Kentucky if it's your name that gets selected and you are the 2019 National Star?
Well, I think it will be it'll be pretty amazing to bring that back to Hart County. We're a very rural and small community here in Hart County. My graduating class only had 175 in it, so it's a very close-knit family that here in Hart County. So it's going to be pretty amazing, and my sister and my other advisor, I think it would be a shock that everybody would be in shock.
Well, let me ask your advice for other students out there. I mean, this path, this road that you are on, it all started, it sounds like, with you seeing a need. You seeing a need that needed to be filled and you saying, I'm the person that can fill it. So for another student out there who sees something like that, but they think, well, it's not going to be me, or I could never be the one to fix this problem or fulfill this need for other people, what advice would you have for them to overcome that and actually give it a try?
My biggest thing is I tell people this all the time. Don't be afraid of failure. We all fail from time to time. Don't be afraid to fail, but the most important thing is to get back up from that failure and learn from that and grow from there, and never give up on your dreams. They always can come true and they can always happen. It's just if you're willing to put in the work and time that it takes to make them come true.
Great advice, Blake. This has been great, super inspirational, and I love hearing about how you're using entrepreneurship to be able to farm and manage those cows intensively. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this today, and best of luck to you.
Well, thank you very much, sir. It's been a great honor to be on today.
Well, hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thanks to Blake Quiggins for coming on and sharing his story. What an absolutely fantastic story. Really enjoyed hearing all about that. Can't wait to see where this all goes. I suspect we'll be hearing more from Blake as we go forward in the future. And thank all of you for being here, and enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.